Happy Friday, everyone. We're going to be chatting with my friend Dan Lambert about bringing back the U. Hey, Dan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. What's up, Doc?
I'm good. I'm good. Listen, man, thanks for joining us, and thanks for working through all those technical issues.
Yeah, I'm not the greatest when it comes to phones. Sorry.
Uh, I'm the same way, so I'm glad you got on. I'm going to do just a brief introduction while everyone's logging on here. We are very lucky today to speak with Dan Lambert. He's one of the biggest names in UFC. He founded American Top Team in 2001, building a world-class training facility for MMA fighters. He is a businessman by trade and a Brazilian jiu-jitsu enthusiast, and he's led ATT, which is American Top Team, to become one of the top MMA training facilities in the world. In fact, ATT won the best gym category in 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. There's currently over 40 ATT facilities worldwide. Actually headquartered locally here in Coconut Creek, Florida, ATT has produced numerous MMA world champions and highly notable competitors. But actually more relevant to today's discussion, Dan has started a new and very inspiring initiative called Bring Back the U. This is a Miami-based company focused on helping UM's football players utilize the name, image, and likeness concept to really aid recruiting, build their program, and really get back to prominence. Bring Back the U was established with two goals in mind. As I said, one is to help UM's football program get back to the great years and also procure NIL, name, image, and likeness sponsorships for those players so they can benefit from the billions of dollars that are produced in college football. So again, welcome, Dan. Very excited to talk to you about this initiative.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
So just for starters, tell us a little bit about your background with UM and why you're such a devout UM fan.
I've been a UM fan since I was a kid. Two of my great loves in life are football and MMA. So, football is it's just the greatest thing in the world. What else do you want to do on a Saturday or Sunday than sit home and watch football? And the Canes have such a great history. I was lucky enough to grow up during, the heyday, watch all their national championship games, go down to the Orange Bowl, be a part of it. And, once I became an adult and got a job and started making some money, I figured, you got to give back. You want to support your team. And really the only way you can do that pre-NIL is give money to the athletic department and hope that it gets used properly. And sometimes they do things that have you applauding and say that was a great move, great use of the funds. And then other times they do things and you're scratching your head like, where's the money going? I mean, what are they doing with this money? So when I heard the NIL legislation was coming around, I thought, man, that's just a heck of an opportunity to directly help the players that are producing the product on the field. I mean, I don't know how familiar people are with what goes into being a Division I scholarship athlete, but it's more than a full-time job on top of your workload in school. And to see these kids generating the billions of dollars that they generate and not get even a little sliver over and above their scholarship, it's kind of mind-boggling. And you hear all the arguments coming out of the NCAA as to why it should not happen over all the years. And I kind of see through that and just think it's greed. They just want more of it for themselves. So when the NIL talk came about, I thought it was great. So I'm going to wait for it to get announced and I'm going to get involved somehow.
I mean, it's fascinating that you're the first to do this. I mean, how did that idea just come about? Was there one moment? Was it over years you were thinking about this? Because you're the first to do this in the entire country, and I'm sure people are going to be following your lead. But was there a certain moment that it clicked for you to kind of Bring Back the U?
I think it probably dates back to just me being such a junkie when it comes to following recruiting. I love college football recruiting. I follow it. It gives me something to do during the off season. You track how the kids are doing at the high school level. You see the schools that they're visiting, the schools that they originally commit to, the ones that they decommit from and then end up to. And, probably just being a little bit jealous of some of the big state schools and how well they do in recruiting and the things that they have to offer these kids, whether some of it's above board or some of it's below board. And you see it and it's just like, man, I wish we could compete with these guys on the level that they do it. They have so many resources. And, we have a program that is geographically endowed. I mean, the greatest recruiting in the country is in Florida, specifically South Florida. But to see all these great kids that probably would like to stay home and rep their city and rep their home school, most of them end up going elsewhere. They want to stay at home and their families can come and watch them play, but there's just too much to offer on the other side. And, some of that is winning, some of that is coaching, some of that's development, to get to the next level. But there's other perks that go along with going to some of these big state schools. And I always thought it'd be nice if we could level the playing field somehow. And the first time I saw the NIL legislation, I thought, man, that's a way to level the playing field. Maybe some of these kids would stay home, rep their city, play in front of their family and friends, if they could get a little something extra on top of the experience on the field. And I said, man, it would be great to contribute to that and to start something and maybe get some people in the city behind the team and get them to come together to support the team, knowing that what they're giving and doing is going to directly benefit these kids.
So tell us a little bit about what goes into recruiting, because you say that you follow it very closely. And I would say most people, even people who are huge college football fans, don't really understand what goes into recruiting. Explain a little bit about how this levels the playing field and what are the factors that go into it.
Recruiting is a crazy business in and of itself. I mean, some of these kids start getting recruited when they're in middle school, and they start getting contacted and pitched on coming to a particular school. Kids get 5 official visits, which mean you can come to a school on the school's dime. You get to go to 5 and you can choose them. And official visits are big because that's when you go and you get on campus. You can bring some family members. They wine you, they dine you, they take you around, they entertain you. And it's all above board and it's all paid for by the school. They can also take official visits where they got to go on their own dime. So getting in front of these kids is a big deal. And Miami, has as good a shot as anybody at getting people on campus because a lot of the local kids grew up watching them. But when they get on campus, funny things start happening. And, I'm not a conspiracy theorist and I'm not crying everything's unfair in the world. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of extra benefits that get handed down to these kids to go to some of these monster schools with monster recruiting boosters. And, you hear stories about what some of these kids are getting on the side to go to these schools. And it's kind of mind-boggling. And, a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It's rare. It happens all the time. If you read some of these exposés and some of these guys that have gone underground and done the research and followed some of these kids around, it's kind of crazy. And, Miami, as much as we have in history of success in our program, we don't have these generational type fans that contribute to the team and do whatever they can to help the team down here. What percentage of the school, you would know better than me, what percentage of the school is international students? What percentage of the remainder come from out of state? By the time they get to Miami, they didn't come to Miami because they're big college football fans or big Miami Hurricane fans. They come because it's Miami and it's geographic and the reputation of the school or a particular field that they want to study. And what happens to most of them when they graduate? They leave. And when they leave and go home to their home country, to their home state, they don't really remain athletic fans for the U. They're not contributing to the athletic department to get us the greatest facilities to compete with other schools and whatnot. So, we are at a big recruiting disadvantage, even though we're right in the hotbed of recruiting. All these kids grow up seeing our team. Most of them don't come here because there's just too many benefits to be gotten at other places. Now, we have benefits to give as well. We put a lot of guys in the pros, and we are still a high-profile team. A lot of eyeballs will watch the Hurricanes when they play on TV, even though they may not have been good for the last 15, 20 years. People still want to watch. So we have some benefits here, but, we don't have enough to keep us as competitive recruiting-wise as we should be. And the NIL gives us that opportunity to lessen that gap a little bit. I mean, putting some money in these kids' pockets and giving them opportunities while they're here to make money and make their lives more comfortable and make their families' lives more comfortable. I mean, $500 a month in a college freshman, sophomore, junior, senior's pockets might not sound like a lot to a lot of people, but man, it's the difference between being able to take your girlfriend out to dinner or maybe being able to help your mom with her rent for $300 of it a month or to go towards a car payment. It's a big deal. So the idea for Bring Back the U was, the cream's always going to rise to the top, and the best players at every school are always going to have opportunities to do things and make their lives more comfortable. But how about the other 80 guys on scholarship. There's 85 scholarship players on a team. My concept was let's come up with a program that can put a baseline amount of money in every kid's pocket that comes to Miami, because football is a team sport. Even though you may not be a starter, may not be a star, that team needs you. All 85 kids that are here on scholarship, plus even the walk-ons, they're all contributing. They may be on the scout team, providing the look for the team that they're playing to help them game plan and strategize for that game. Everybody in that locker room is helping towards the cause, and they all help the wins and they all contribute to the losses. So if we could come up with something that puts money in the pockets of every single scholarship kid on that team, all 85 kids, and then the ones that are better than others, they may get additional sponsors, just like they may end up getting drafted and be more successful, in the NFL at the next level. And, that's all on them. But my concept was, if we can come up with something, a minimum of $500 a month per kid, ideally $1,000 a month per kid, I think it would, make their lives a lot easier and more comfortable when they're here, and take some of the stressors off that they don't need. But it's going to help recruiting. I mean, if hey, if I go there, I'm going to get at least this amount per month while I'm there to make my life more comfortable, and I get to stay home, and my family gets to come and see me, and hopefully we're winning if the athletic department can, I don't know the most diplomatic way to say it, it's not my strong point, get their heads out of their asses and help put a better product on the field. Man, we could have a tsunami of success down here in Miami. I think with where we're located and what we have to offer at a baseline, I think we should be a top 20 team every single year, just if we do an average job of running our athletic department. And if they do it well, I think we should be a top 10 team every year. And if they do it very well, I think we should be competing for national championships every single year. And think about that, what that would do for bringing our city together and getting our fan base together. I mean, nothing can bring a town together more than a successful football team.
Yeah, I mean, that is so well said. Let's get into the nitty gritty of your company. I mean, obviously you run it, but who works in the company? What are the missions? And for people who don't know, so you keep on talking about $500 a month. Explain how your company dovetails with your ATT, where the money comes from, and how the players get the money.
Okay, well, there's our year one plan, and then there's our plan going forward. The year one plan is we couldn't do anything until the legislation passed. So I did nothing up until then. I did not even incorporate the company because I had a feeling that the compliance is going to be strict on these deals. I don't think the NCAA is a big fan of the program in the beginning to even start with. I know that there's a lot of other issues and a lot of other stressors on the NCAA right now. So, enforcing it may not be as high on their radar as it would have been otherwise. But I didn't want to run any risks or do anything improper before it even started and passed. So I waited for day one. On day one, I started the company. I incorporated it, and I figured the best thing we could do would be come out with a bang and get some publicity for our program to get people aware of it. Because, ultimately I need to go to individuals and go to businesses and get people to come on and sign on and become annual donors to this cause to make it successful. But I thought in year one, and on day one, in order to get all the publicity, I had to do something substantial that would get some coverage and get our name out there and get people aware of what we're doing. So what I decided to do was do the math on how many players we have on the team on scholarship. It's typically 85. This year it was 90 because there were some COVID carryovers, some exceptions made to the roster rules. And I started talking to some people that I know that are familiar with, how these players think and how they live. And I said, what is an amount of money that we could put in these kids' pockets every month to start that would make a difference to these kids? And the number that floated around the most was $500. So I did the math. I said, okay, 90 scholarship players, $500 per player per month for a year. Came out to, I believe it was $540,000 that we needed to come up with to kick the program off. I said, there's no way I'm going to be able to come up and raise $540,000 by going around and talking about this idea. And by the time I did, there's going to be other people already doing it. So we're not going to get the boom of publicity that I'm hoping to get. So I said, I'm going to come up with it myself. I'm going to do a deal myself and fund this thing with $540,000 to hopefully kick it off. And going forward, hopefully I don't have to give $540,000 of my own money every year, because that's going to leave a mark. I don't care who you are, but it would be worth it to get a jump start. And, I've got 30 years left of living. I'm 52 years old last time I checked. If I got another good 30 years in that, if it cost me 500,000 over 30 years, that's not really that much on an annual basis. So I took one of my companies. First thing I did was I retained a lawyer who helped draft the NIL legislation. His name's Darren Eitner. He's probably the foremost expert in the country from a legal side on the NIL deals and what's compliant and what's not. I went and met with him, laid out my plans, got him to bless the original deal, and every deal we're doing subsequently gets blessed by him before we even take it to the athletic department to get the compliance department to approve it. And I took my company, American Top Team. We have 35 gyms where we train fighters, and we also offer classes to the public. And I told him I wanted to have my team, American Top Team, sponsor each player for $500 per month for the year. And if we could go announce that we secured the first deal, it's over $500,000. I thought it would get some good coverage, which it did, and hopefully get some traction with and give me some credibility when I go out to people in the public to get them to go on board. I mean, I did it myself. I'm asking you to jump in, but not asking you to do anything I haven't done myself. So we did that. The players do social media posts for us every month, supporting, promoting our products that we sell, promoting our online store to buy our merchandise, because there has to be a quid pro quo. It has to be reasonable compensation for what the player is giving you. I can't go because we really like the quarterback, or we really want some kid to come to our school. We can't offer him $200,000 to do a commercial for us, which is going to, probably have a market value of $200, Now, maybe Trevor Lawrence could have gotten last year a big amount of money from a car dealership in South Carolina because he would have been worth it because he's such a big star. But it has to be reasonable based on who the kid is and what they're doing for you. So we came up with a program. It was $500 a month. We came up with an outline of what they had to do to receive that $500. We entered into contracts with the kids, supplied those contracts to the school, the compliance department for approval, and we launched. So that was pretty much day one. The plan from that point forward was that if anybody we contacted or that contacted us that was interested in the program was looking to sponsor or hire a particular athlete this year to do something, we could put them in touch with that kid. We could help them out if they needed help with the contract or making sure the kid showed up. We don't take any fee for that. We're basically just a free liaison between anybody in the community and the kids on the team, anybody who wants to make a deal. But our main goal was, let's start generating donors for next year's fund first, to make sure we have at least that $500 monthly fee, which is going to come up to $500,000 or more, depending on how many scholarship kids are with the COVID restrictions. But it's going to be basically $500,000 a year. Let's come up with $500,000 in pledges for next year so we can offer at least the same $500 per month. But ideally, let's get that up to $1,000 a month. And where it goes from there is where it goes from there. If people call in saying, hey, I want the quarterback, I want this star safety to do a commercial for my car dealership, to come and have dinner at my restaurant and post social media pictures of it to help my restaurant, we'll put them in touch. But my main focus is to go and create a fund every year that generates at least this much money to get each kid at least this much money in his pocket.
So it's important to realize you guys are basically brokering without taking any kind of profits. You guys are brokering with companies and the players, and the $500 is the bare minimum. I mean, there's no limit as to what a player can make depending on their stardom. Is that correct?
There is no limit to what a player can make. And there's players, I mean, you heard Nick Saban come out and say that their quarterback is going to hit 7 figures this year in NIL deals. And I mean, in that city, in that state, with those generational type fans that have that kind of money, is that out of the range of possibility? Probably not. I do know one thing: we may not be able to compete with some of the high valued boosters that Bama has, that last generations and generations. They do it for their whole lifetime. But Miami's got a lot of successful businesses in it. I'll put our business base against anybody in the countries. And if we can get the city to rally behind the team and get them to come together, and part of that's going to need some help from the athletic department, because, you need a good product to get people excited about, especially in Miami. I mean, you go to a Heat game when they had their big three and you couldn't get tickets to it, and everybody's dressed to the nines and everybody's having a great time, and half the people are there just because they want to be seen, and the other half are really diehard fans. But when you got a winner, people want to support it, especially in this city. So we need the team to do their part and we need to do our part. And if we can get them both kicking on all cylinders, I think Miami can have a championship contender every single year.
Now let's talk about local versus national endorsements. Sounds like you're really focused on local, which I agree to kind of start off. Do you have visions of going national once the team gets better, once they're, is there a goal to get national sponsorships as well?
1,000% the goal is to get national, but you nailed it right on the head. Got to wait for the team to get better. Right now, you're only as good as the product that you're pitching to a certain extent. I have, since we launched this, I have come across a group of people that are successful Miami alumni, and they've all given me a lot of their time and effort, and they've all pledged money that they're going to help build this. But they're not just looking to build it for next year. They're looking to do this for the rest of their lives. And they have far greater contacts in the Miami community than I ever have. Because odds are, if you're in the MMA business, I know you. If you're outside the MMA business, my circle's kind of small. These guys have big contacts. They're all Miami alumni. They grew up down there. And they're going to help me build this. We're going to take it slowly. We had some bigger plans this year, to be honest with you. But if you're a Miami football fan, you've seen how it's gone. There's a lot of noise about the team right now, but it's not all positive. So we actually had a couple events that we decided not to do this year to help build towards next year's fund. We're still going to reach our goal next year of $500 minimum per kid, and we're going to offer that to kid come hell or high water if we have to reach into our own pockets, me and these guys, and fund it all ourselves. So we've got a good core of people that are going to help us out to go out and raise money. I don't think we're going to hit huge numbers for next year before the year, but I have confidence that the program's going to get its act together and we're going to start winning. And when it starts winning, and we're going to help them start winning by what we're doing. I mean, the kids already know that you come to Miami, you're going to get $500 a month minimum, just going in. I think that's going to help tremendously in the classes we build. But once the product on the field starts catching up with that, and we start getting national type deals, we get more local deals, I could see it becoming $1,000 a month really quick. And then I could see it becoming more.
That's awesome to hear. I mean, it's such an innovative idea. Do you know of any other companies like this arising, elsewhere in the country? It seems like it's just a natural progression.
Kind of a nerd when it comes to following the recruiting. So I not only follow Miami recruiting, I follow it from other schools, and I go to their message boards, and I'm a member of some of their sites, especially the teams that are our big rivals. And I go on their paid message sites and I see what everybody's saying about other teams. And there probably was not a major school in the country that wasn't talking about, what we did down here and what Miami's doing and what they have to do. Hey, that's a great idea. Let's do it on our own. And I've seen everything from some real small organizations trying to do the same thing to a company set up in Oregon with people that are executives from Nike that are committing giant dollars into their program to do the exact same thing on a much bigger scale than we'll probably ever be able to get, because there's some beasts involved. BYU already has one guy that's put together his deal. Then he's giving scholarships to every non-scholarship player on the football. Every walk-on on the football team, he's giving them a scholarship equivalent in money to pay for their tuition, which is great. And I hope every school in the country gets a program like this. I'd like to have an advantage for it over other teams, which I think we will get just because we're first and because we have such a good, like I call it, geographic endowment. Kids want to go here anyway. But I hope every school does something similar, because the fact of the matter is I don't want just the kids that are at Miami to get some compensation for what they're doing. I like to see all the kids get something fair for what they're putting on the field. I just hope we get a little bit more and do a little bit better. I want to win, but I'd like them to succeed also.
Now, you've got two great ambassadors. You've got Kendrick Norton and you have Jorge Masvidal that are kind of household names across the country, but especially here in Miami. Talk about their role in kind of spreading the word, making people aware of your company.
Okay. Jorge was a no-brainer. He's part of our team. He trains at our gym. I see him every day here when he's here getting ready for his fights. He's been part of our team for, I think, about 17 years. So, he's a big Miami Hurricane fan. He comes to games with me. When I told him what I was doing, he's like, hey man, whatever I can do, you tell me, I'll be there. So, Georgie, I'm probably hoping he will come to certain fundraisers, certain events that we do. The plan was to have a couple of them during the off week, and then have some at the end of the season. And part of my deal with some of these players is required for them to get their fun, some personal time, and show up at some of these events. So we're still looking to do some events at the end of the season, and hopefully he'll get involved on that. Kendrick, when we start going out and doing these events and start reaching out to certain larger companies, he's going to be kind of the face of the company. The guy who knows better than Kendrick Norton that football isn't forever. I mean, these kids go and they work so hard and do so much on the field. And every single one of these kids in their mind thinks that they're going to make it to the NFL and they're going to have a great life for themselves and their family. Just like every guy that comes and trains in my gym thinks they're going to be a UFC champion and make tons of money. The fact of the matter is, most of them won't. 95+% of the kids on the practice field at right now are going to go pro in something other than football. But who knows that better than Kendrick Norton? Even if you're good enough to do everything right while you're in school, something can happen that makes that, no longer in your future. So I think he'd be a really good person to go out and speak at these companies and convince them, these kids are putting in so much, and he can talk from experience, and they may not get anything out of it over and above their education, which can be a very valuable tool, obviously. But for a lot of the kids, they could use something else. So I think he can, you can call it tug on the heartstrings. You can call it just talk from experience. I think he's going to be a really important person to reach out to our community and help get the word out about what we're doing and why it's a good thing, not just something that can help your company by getting endorsement deals with these players, but can make you feel really good on the inside about helping them out.
I mean, so how long do you think it'll be until we see the benefits of this bring back is it immediate? Meaning, are you seeing with the recruitment this year, are you seeing that the Hurricanes are getting higher caliber prospects with this in mind? Or is this something that's going to be a 2 or 3 year plan until you see the benefits?
A lot of that, it depends on how the on-field product goes. It's just reality. Kids all want to be part of winners. There were some high hopes and expectations going into this year, and the Hurricanes were going to have a really small recruiting class this year anyway because of the restrictions on the number of scholarships you're allowed to have as a whole, and they had a lot of kids that were returning as upperclassmen. So, the NCAA does not allow you to sign more than 25 kids per year to scholarships. You're allowed to have a total of 85, but you can't sign a class more than 25. So if kids fall out for academic reasons, if kids go pro, if kids transfer, your roster may be less than 85 scholarship players depending on how you manage it, but you're capped out every year at 25. Some years they sign classes of 25. Sometimes they can only sign classes of 15 depending on how many kids in those classes stick. We were going to have a small class this year anyway for next year. Going into the season, the numbers were small, but the quality was through the roof. Really, really high quality kids. Some of those kids have already started reopening up their commitments, their recruitment to look at other schools just based on some of the instability we have on the field and some of the product that isn't as good as you might have hoped it would have been. So I don't know how this class is going to pan out. It probably depends on how the rest of the year goes. Some of the kids that were signing early on were already talking about the NIL deals that were out there and thinking that they could, make some money at Miami and in the community, not just because of our company, but just because of, the NIL deals and Miami being a kind of a hot place to be business-wise. But we'll see how the season ends up. I thought it may have jumped right in and been a huge success in year one. But if it's not, I'm going to live at least 30 more years, and I'm going to do this every day of those 30 years to try to make it better and get these kids as compensated as I can get them, because I want to win and I want our team to win. And I think our city wants our team to win. So hopefully a lot of people jump on board, and whether it's a 1-year project to get to where we want to be, or a 2-year or a 3-year or a 4-year or a 5-year, I'm going to be here to do it. And the guys that I brought in that are excited about it, like I am, are going to be in on it. So it's going to work. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take.
I love hearing that. Let's just quickly wrap up. I want to talk about the on-field product because you've mentioned that numerous times. A lot of high hopes this year, top 10 preseason, a lot of senior leadership coming in. what's gone wrong this year in your opinion? Is it a freshman and sophomore? Is it a senior class issue? Is it a coaching issue? Is it an athletic director issue? Is it a president issue? Is it all levels? Where does this need to change in order to bring you back to the prominence?
Okay, I'm a realist. I call it like I see it. I'm not really good at sugarcoating stuff. But before I go down that road, I will start by saying that the last two recruiting classes that this school has put together and this team has put together are phenomenal. They have a core group of young kids, freshmen and sophomores, and even the sophomores are really freshmen now because last year didn't count because of COVID towards your eligibility, so everybody can actually play 5 years instead of 4. We've got some absolute monsters in those last two classes. So our youngest two classes are just full of high level prospects that look like they are going to be amazing, including 2 young quarterbacks who could be studs. Now, I doubt both of them will stick around. I think whoever wins the competition going into next season, the other one may look elsewhere because he could be a starter right away because they are both that good when you see them on the practice field. So there's a lot of optimism from our youth at that team, which is why I was so excited that this recruiting class this year, you put 3 consecutive really good recruiting classes together and you've totally retooled your lineup. You're as good as anybody in the country. That's the beauty of college football. You can see teams go from really bad to really good in a couple of years because every 2 years you're turning over at least 50% of your roster. So there's huge turnover because of graduation rates. So I think the future is really bright for Miami with those 2 younger recruiting classes. That's the positive. On the negative side, I mean, they've underperformed. I mean, we haven't beaten a Power 5 team in like 9 games or something like that. I think we're 0-6 against our last 5 opponents. Then we've had a couple of non-Power 5 opponents that we have beaten, but the product's bad on the field. So who do you look to? You got to look at the top. I mean, it's whether you want to blame an athletic director or a coach or a coaching staff or whatever. I mean, you can't blame your kids. They're the kids that you went out and chose, that you went out and recruited, that you went out and scouted, that you picked to be on your team. You're the one coaching them up, teaching them up. The last thing I'll ever do is blame the kids on that team. I think you have to look at the top, and the coaches and the athletic department have to be accountable for the product on the field. And I don't think anybody's going to look at you and say they've done a good job for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's quite a problem, obviously. I mean, there's been multiple coaches over the last 10 years. Each of them come in with a lot of promise. And then there's flashes of brilliance. Obviously, they go on these streaks. The year they finished, I think 8-3 was their best year in a long time. But then boom, right back to mediocrity. So obviously very hopeful for the future, Dan. I'm going to wrap it up because I know how busy you are. Truly inspirational, your passion for the Hurricanes, how supportive you are of the football team. And obviously this is going to be a success. Like you said, it could be a year, could be 5 years, could be 10 years, but obviously look forward to your company, to your program, and seeing how it transforms the U.
Thank you. We're excited for it. It's going to work. It's going to work.
Oh, it will. Absolutely. It's just a matter of when. So we'll just throw up the U, and you have a great weekend, buddy. All right. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.